In my previous video, I mentioned about this speed controller and what it's going to be attached to. Well, today we're going to find out, so let's get started. Howdy folks, and welcome out to the claim. It's going to be a real scorcher today, so let's go ahead and get started. As you know, I've got this wash plant, and for those of you who are new to this channel and haven't seen all this stuff before, I suggest you go back to my previous video, check it out, so you have an idea of more what we're going to talk about. So last video I talked more about the shaker deck and the upper half of the wash plant. Today I'm going to discuss more about the lower half. Now, as you know, for the past few years I've been using this dewatering trommel to help separate the water from the material that comes off the sluice. Okay, so everything flows through here, and of course all the water drops down into this tub and the tailings head off into the tailings pile at the other end. I also have another tub here with filters in it that has a 200 mesh and a 400 mesh filter in here to help screen out some of the suspended particles in the water. So the whole idea is to be able to purify the water as much as you can to recirculate it through. So instead of spending, thousands of gallons of water to process, say, a cubic yard, you're only spending about maybe 100 to 120 gallons. So this trommel's been serving me pretty well over the years, and it has a 60 mesh screen. So therefore, and that's what, 250 microns. So that means everything that's 60 mesh or larger heads out into the tailings pile. However, everything that's minus 60 drops in the tub with the water. Now, what I've experienced out here, because I'm working with this really gooey clay material, is that a lot of this gooey clay ends up in the tub. So consequently, when I run about a cubic yard of material, the tubs fill up. In fact, this tub will fill up all the way, and then part of this tub will actually fill up with silt. And so I'm having to muck it out. Now, it takes about 60 gallons to fill up this tub, that tub, and the tertiary tub, which is the pump tub where the water is received by the water pump, to operate this. So what I have to do after every yard is I basically have to purge everything and start all over for the next yard. Okay, and that's consuming a lot of water. My goal here today is to try to reduce that as much as possible. So with that, this get back to the trommel here. So this has a 60 mesh screen. So if I were to put a tighter screen in this, it wouldn't effectively separate the water. I would have to have a trommel 3 times the length in order to get the stuff, screened out finer. And of course, that's just really impractical when you're trying to build a portable wash plant system. So with that, this trommel is going to go bye-bye, and let me introduce you to the new thing. Introducing a new dewatering shaker deck. Yes, I've done a lot of experimentation and discovered that a shaker deck is actually more efficient than the trommel. And I'll talk to you more about that, so come on over here, get a little closer look. So this deck has a 200 mesh screen in it. So therefore, it's actually reducing the particle size down to about 74 microns. So before we were at 250 microns at the 60 mesh, now we're down to 74 microns. That's almost 3.5 times greater efficiency in filtering out the material that comes off this sluice. Now, I don't want to get into all the details about this. There's a lot of physics going on and crazy harmonics and everything. I had to produce 3 different test models before I actually got this one perfected. So it took a lot of effort and a lot of time, trial and error and stuff like that. But now she's working pretty darn good. So with that, we're probably looking at maybe patenting this. It should be a patentable idea. So anyway, let me show you a few other things along with this. The other thing is I made a 400 mesh screen. And that actually fits into the tub in which the shaker deck is resting on. And that sits right into here. And then it's just kind of held together with a couple little small bungee cords to keep it in place. And so what this does is this filters out down to 400 mesh the material that's flowing into this tub, okay? So really, I don't need these filters anymore because it's all being filtered in this tub. And consequently, I don't even need this tub. So I can go ahead and get rid of that. And also, I don't even need this tertiary tub. So I can get rid of this too. Now, let me show you what I'm going to replace it with. This is going to be awesome. This new tub is actually going to be a sand filter. So you can see inside here, I've got this pipe. It's a 1.5 inch PVC pipe. And I'll turn it around for you so you can kind of see the holes here. There's a set of holes on each side that's covered with a 60 mesh screen. So what this is going to do is, this is actually kind of a common thing you see for like swimming pools, sewage treatment, stuff like that. What this will do is that it'll help filter out some of the suspended particles that are coming out of that tub. So you can see behind me I've got a bunch of rocks and everything. So what you can do is either you can get the materials from a hardware store that basically, you can get the playground sand for sand boxes as well as aggregate for concrete, and go ahead and screen them with your set of screens here so it fits in there. Or you can simply just go down to a wash that's got a lot of gravel in it, and you can just save some time and money and just go ahead and screen it out yourselves. So basically what I have here is I have material behind me that's screened down to 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch, and 1/16 inch. And so this will make up the layers inside the tub, which I'll just show you here in a second. So let me explain to you how a sand filter works. Okay, this pipe that's in here is actually the suction pipe for the pump that pumps everything back up to the shaker deck and sluice. So what you do is we put a bunch of rocks in here, and we have 3 different layers. You put the coarser layer on the bottom, and then you put the medium layer on top of that, and then you put the fine stuff above that. Now I know that sounds a little strange, but that's how the filter system works. Just the opposite of what you probably think. So the water spills out of this tub and pours into this tub, and of course it trickles down through all the different layers, and of course all the suspended particles start getting trapped on each piece of rock. Now I also want to mention too that if you're going to build a sand filter and use sand, I highly recommend that you use kind of a silica sand or igneous type sand, metamorphic sand. Don't try to use sedimentary rock like sandstone, limestone, and stuff like that, because what happens is that stuff turns gooey after a while when it gets wet, and we're trying to trap the goo anyway, so you're just adding more goo to the system. So better to use an igneous or silica type base rock when you're doing this. So what you'll find is that most of the stuff will actually get trapped on the upper layer, and when the pieces start to get a little too big, the pump is sucking this down, okay? There's pressure pulling this down. The bigger chunks will fall down onto the next layer of rock and get trapped on it. Then it'll accumulate some more and get bigger and bigger, and then eventually fall to the lower level, which is the bigger rock, and get trapped on it as well. So hopefully by the time you're done running a couple of yards of material through here, this thing is still got plenty of capacity to filter out more material. Now we're not trying to get everything absolutely pure, but we're trying to keep the water lubricious, so that way when it goes back up to the shaker deck and starts washing new fresh material, that it can effectively do it, and also so it doesn't turn all gooey and gummy, so that way the fine gold has a good chance of trapping on the riffles in the sluice. So that's how this kind of works. So let me show you what we do here. So first of all, just kind of get it all positioned here. And then what I'm going to do is I've got this 1/4 inch rock to start off with, okay? And we're going to put this in here first. And all we want to do is just kind of add enough layering in here just to kind of cover up the pipe and all that, okay? That's all we really kind of need, all right? And this prevents the finer sand from getting sucked in here. And by the way, the screen down here is 20 mesh, so it's finer than the other material. So now my next layer is going to be 1/8 rock. So we'll go ahead and pour this in. And you see, this is fresh stuff that I just screened not too long ago, so that's why it's a little on the dusty side, okay? So we put that in, all right? And it's okay if you got a mix of a few larger stones in here. No big deal. It's going to work just fine. Not an issue. So now what we're going to do is we're going to load it up with the fine stuff, which I've got a couple of buckets here of. And this is 1/16 inch rock. So we're going to put this in. or sand, I should say. And as you can tell, this is fresh stuff, and that's why it's all dusty. And I'll show you here in a minute how we purify that, so we don't end up pumping anything into the pump and up to the sprayers and the sluice. That's the other thing about this sand filter. It's really super nice because it takes all the vegetation, like leaves and wood and stuff like that, and actually prevents it from getting into the pumping system and prevents it from getting up into the sprayers and clogging up them as well. So let me put on just a little bit more. And then we should be done with that. There we go. Okay. That should be about do it. Oh, there's a lot of vegetation in this. Let's ditch that out. There we are. There we go. In fact, I'm going to add a little extra berm on this side because most of the stuff coming off spills right into here. Okay. So now, this has consumed a lot of volume. Okay. This takes 25 gallons to fill up this tub over here. This one here is going to take about 10 gallons. So now I'm basically about 35 gallons. Where before, to run the whole system, I was basically using about 60 gallons just to get started, okay? So now I've almost cut that completely in half. Now the other thing too is that with this, it still takes about 40 gallons of water to process a cubic yard. You just simply can't get away from that. That's what it costs. But the idea though is that if you can keep this stuff clean and simple, you don't have to use so much water to reset the system. And actually you can, instead of waiting to process 1 cubic yard and then have to purge everything, you can probably move on to the next yard. So you can probably do double the capacity compared to what you could do in the past. Okay, I've got one more thing to show you before we get started. So here it is. Now everything is stacked on top of each other, sort of like a gold cube. So now everything zigzags down. So the shaker deck and all the tailings are going off the same direction as the dewatering screen, okay? So everything slides down this way. The sluice is going this direction. Everything from the sluice spills onto this, onto the dewater shaker deck. This little piece of material here just kind of keeps the splashing to a minimum because this thing vibrates so much. And then, so now think about this. In your mind's eye, this system mounted on a small, portable, lightweight trailer that you can literally wheel right out to wherever you're going to be digging. And, you know, and it's no higher than this. If I'm trying to dump stuff in here, you know, I'm 5'9", I'm 5 feet 9. So if I'm dumping stuff in here, ergonomically, it's pretty easy. So just think, this being on a trailer, everything lifted above the ground, and then the tub is actually underneath the trailer. So it really isn't going to be any higher than this. How easy is that for the simple weekend prospector to come out and set up? You don't need conveyors and all this other kind of stuff and everything. You can literally set it up yourself and make it all work. So this is the end goal, is I'm going to be building a trailer mounted wash plant that I'll be able to market. These are all test models for the future prototype that'll be coming up in later videos, probably sometime late this fall. Okay, so what we're going to do first of all is we're going to purge the sand filter, make sure that we clean out all the dirty rocks. All I'm going to do is just wait for the suction to come around, and we're just going to blow it back into this tub here. So you can see the dirty material kind of flowing in, all right? And you see now it's starting to clear up, and now we're pretty clear. And that's what we want to do. So we'll go ahead and shut this off. And now we're ready to get started. As you can see, everything is all shaken and ready to go, so we're ready to put some material in here. Okay, I'm slowly feeding stuff into the shaker deck, and you can see how it's slowly washing off all the material here. Giving it a nice good scrubbing. Cleaning off all these rocks. And of course it's all falling down into there, into the collection. Now it's coming down the sluice. There's the sluice coming down. And here we are down in the dewatering section. You can already see the dirt is actually being screened out pretty well for this gooey clay. So let me try to throw some more material in here so you get a better idea how it works. You can see the gooey material racing down through here, this gooey clay, and yet it's starting to slowly filter out. So when it comes down here to this end, it's just this muckety muck looking stuff here. You can kind of see this. Now all the other stuff is falling off the top. So look how that thing is slowly progressing down, filtering out down to 200 net. Isn't that awesome? But yet, look at the water coming out of the sprayer. See how clean that is? Now, we're just getting started. Obviously, it's going to get a little dirtier than that later on down the road. But that's what shows you how good the sand filter is actually working to clean the water. See how easy it is for me to pour right here? Nice and comfortable. It's not like I'm reaching over the top of my head. I'm just right here. You can feed it, it'll take it. Woo! Yeah, the idea behind this whole wash plant is to be able to wash all rocks. You notice I'm not screening them down at all. Like a lot of people do, they screen their wash plant, their sluice system down to quarter inch. This takes everything. That way I'm not missing any gold. Now with this new system, I got twice the dirt as before because everything is coming off this end. Now some of you have been asking about actually having either a conveyor or a dump thing to dump into the bucket, and those are good ideas, and I may do that eventually. But for right now in the short term, what I'm doing is I'm just going to fill up this bucket or this wheelbarrow, and that way I can wheel it back to my dig site and actually reclimate whatever area that I finished digging in. Now keep all the government bureaucrats and everybody off my back. All right, so we'll just dump the rest out here. And we're ready to go get another load. Okay folks, it's getting pretty hot out here. We ran probably about a good 3/4 of a yard through here. You can see the sprayers are doing pretty good, despite, you know, all the gooey clay that we ran through here. And we come down here and look at the gummy water coming into the sand filter. So all of this is doing really well so far, especially dealing with this gooey clay. What we're going to do now is pump out both of these tubs because I want to show you what's settled in here. And before we get to the gold. So let's go ahead and get this thing fired up. We'll go ahead and empty the water in the sand filter first, just to show you what it looks like. It's going to be gunky gummy. Look at all that gunk. Did pretty good there, not bad. We'll go ahead and drain this all the way out. What I do is I want to drain down this tub here just to show you what's settled inside. So that way you got a better idea. And it's going to be impressive, I can already tell. So slowly just pumping out the water. Oh, it's going to take off. Oh well. That's okay. Alright. Cool. Now I'm going to bring you in a little closer to the sand filter, and you can just see the gooey gunk that came out of this. Now, surprisingly, you can see as I'm digging down here, most of the gooey gunk is pretty much right on this top layer. And as I dig down a little bit further, sorry for moving the camera, you can see that it's not as bad. So I'm sure this goes all the way down to the bottom to even the larger coarse material as we dig down here. See, as it's getting down to here, it's got a little bit of junk in it, but not too bad. Okay, so that just shows you how well this filter worked in this gooey clay material that I'm trying to work on. Now, let's move over to the other tub, and let me show you what's going on here. Well, you really can't see it because it's still still got muddy water, but I'm right at the mud level right here. You see this? I'm right at the mud level, all right? And so this is minus 200 to plus 400 gooey clay. So I'm not removing it all from the shaker deck. And unfortunately, I can't get a finer screen to work on it just yet, you know, like 400 mesh. That would be really cool. But so far, it just doesn't quite handle it. But anyhow, that just shows you now, as I mentioned earlier on, normally with the other, you know, Trommel that had the 60 mesh screen, this whole tub would be completely filled all the way to the very top, you know, of silt, and also the other corresponding tub next to it with the filters in it would be about a quarter to half filled with silt. So here we've made a major reduction. So technically, with cleaning out the sand filter, which is pretty easy because all you have to do is just back flush it, or you have to just take out the material and wash it and stick it back in, and it only takes like just a few minutes to do that. And then really, you can actually run another cubic yard in here without a problem. So anyhow, that just shows you how effective this new shaker deck dewatering filtration system is working. Okay, we'll go ahead and clean out the sluice here and see what we get. Just going to unlatch it, take this little splash guard off, get that out of the way. We'll take these little rods off as well. Okay, I mean, I don't see any nuggets sitting in here so far, but that doesn't mean anything. So we'll go ahead and take this mat and roll it up. Now, those of you who want to know what mat I use, you know, you can check my other videos. It's this called a double stack V matting made by Snake River Products, and you can go and watch some of my other videos where I show this more in action and give you more details. So go ahead and just dump that in the bucket, and we'll swish it around. And I always like to turn it so the mat is facing outward, so that way it kind of expands the individual V's and helps knock off all the rocks and gold and nuggets and everything else that's in here. So, all right, looks like a pretty good job. Looks like we got it all. Yep, just a few little rocks hanging on. That's about it. All right. There we go. So that's it for that. I'll just set the mat aside. Now we still got a lot of material, mud and stuff in the sluice, so we'll go ahead and just kind of clear this all out. Yeah. And this will just take a few seconds to wipe it all down. Make sure we get it all nice and cleaned out, so that way we're ready for the next run. And let me tell you, it's getting blazing hot out here. It feels like it's probably at least about 104 degrees right now. So, okay, we're handing down our concentrates here, and to see what kind of gold we got. So we'll go ahead and tip it back. This is a Maverick pan by Snake River Products that I'm using. And there's so much black sand in here, it's really hard to separate the gold from it, but I'll just bring it right up to the camera so you can see right off the bat. We're already just getting a whole bunch of just super fine stuff all the way across. I think there's like a little bit of a nugget, not nugget, but a little kind of flake starting to appear right there. So you can see that we didn't get skunked today, but most of this stuff is just ultra fine. I'm gonna try to bring it up. Let's see if we can cut a little bit more. All right, you see some gold skating off over here in the corner. Yeah, the gold is just all through the black sand. So I'll just bring it up to you so you can kind of see it for yourself. You can just see the gold smattered all through here. Most of it's like 100 mesh or smaller. So we just got a bunch of it. Now this stuff here, you'd never catch this in a dry washer. It's so fine. But see, what makes the difference is there's a lot of it on this property, so it kind of adds up over time. So let's go ahead and continue swishing over here. You can just see more gold as I bring it up to the camera. See more gold kind of smattered through here. More super fine stuff all through here. It's just loaded. So this wash plant seems to be doing pretty good and seems to be trapping all the fine gold. So, you know, if we're trapping fine gold, then we certainly can get nuggets. Okay, now here's another little piece starting to show up over here in the corner. You see that there? There's another nice one. And there's also another nice one right over here too, starting to pop up. So we're just going to continue to cut on down, and yeah, we got, oh yeah, here we go. Here's a few more little pieces. I'll just bring it up to the camera some more. You can kind of see them right here starting to show up in the sand. And of course you can just, again, see all the fine stuff just littered everywhere all through this whole pan. So yeah, pretty impressive. All right, well, I don't think we got rich today, but we certainly got some gold, so we can't say we got skunked. Here's a few more pieces starting to show up. I'll bring this up again to the camera. Somebody was complaining to me I wasn't showing the gold very well, so I thought I'd stick it up a little higher to the camera so you can see it a little better. Yeah, all right. Here's some more pieces starting to pop up. There's one up here in the corner. You see that right there, and there's another one right next to it. So, and boy, just oodles and oodles of just fine stuff here. Let's see if I can clean this off a little bit for you. There we go. All right, check out all this fine stuff right here. That's just pretty unbelievable. That's really some super fine gold in there. And of course, yeah, like I say, that's what we got out here. Don't know how much this is, but I would speculate it's a pretty small amount. But you can just see in the bottom of my pan here, it's just riddled everywhere with little specks of gold all through here. All right, folks, well, that's it. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. It's blazing hot out here. It's time to find a cool place to hide out for a while. In the meantime, I hope you can utilize some of the stuff that you saw here today for your own operation, especially those of you who have a sluice recirculation system. That sand filter is a pretty good idea. Please subscribe to my channel and also click on the little bell so you can get future updates, because I'm going to be producing a video on how to make a shaker deck as well as a sand filter, so please stay tuned to that. In the meantime, I wish you the very best in your prospecting adventures. Get out there and find some gold, and we'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.